I think it's a mistake that the UK hasn't been quicker to come out with a full response to the Inflation Reduction Act. And there was some hope that the Powering Up Britain report might have had something in the way of a comprehensive response to the IRA, should we call it for short. And so it was disappointing. I thought that wasn't in there. I think Minister's response has been to say, well, the UK's got a head start already on lots of countries. We've got one of the best decarbonisation rates in the G20 over the last couple of decades. We've got this world-leading offshore wind sector. As other countries are catching up with us. And look, of course, I think we're going to continue to be able to attract investment into new renewables projects, into electric vehicles through some of the mechanisms we've already talked about, like contracts for difference or the zero emission vehicle mandates. But I think what worries me most about the Inflation Reduction Act's impact on the UK's green economy is what it means for our push to try and secure new jobs in industry off the back of the net zero transition. And I think we've got a really critical window now in the next few years when all these supply chains are scaling up to meet these new ambitious targets for renewable energy deployment, for electric car deployment, and companies are deciding where to build those factories and where to base that supply chain. And at the moment, all the incentives, all the carrots are on the American side of the Atlantic, and Britain, whilst it has this strong start in terms of rolling out these technologies, in terms of the investment environment, it's just not as competitive. And I think that's the missed opportunity. And I worry about what this means for the government's levelling up plan. There's a plan to lift up economic opportunities across the UK, including in particular in our industrial heartlands, places like Teesside in the northeast of England, which had been earmarked for getting lots of this net zero investment. That now some of those factories might not be based in the UK because it is just not as attractive compared to the US. And I think that's kind of what worries me. And sure, we might get cheaper goods, let American taxpayers subsidize these technologies and we buy them, and it might be better for the consumer. But in terms of, I think, industrial strategy and getting jobs to replace the ones we're going to lose in oil and gas and diesel manufacturing, I think there's a risk there. And the other thing that's slightly disappointing about the UK response is the sort of almost criticising the US for doing this, when we've been as a leader on climate change calling for the US to step up on climate, to do much more. They're the second biggest emitter in the world, and they have not until now passed major climate change legislation. So I think it's a really good thing that the US is now finally acting.